Good morning. This is your Stat Sensei, Mr. Spensei, and this is an assignment on entering data, and it's assignment 2.3. So this is just calculator entries. So first off, we need to go over some definitions or some symbols. X bar is the mean. It's actually the mean of the sample, but the calculator doesn't have a mean for the population. Mean of the population should be a mu, but the calculator uses both interchangeably for calculations. This is standard deviation of X bar. And by the way, once again, this is average. So you need to make a note of yourself. This is average. So this is standard deviation of X, which is the standard deviation of the population. And this is specifically of the population. If it had been S of X, that would be for the sample. But right now, we're only going to deal with the standard deviation of population. N is the sample size. It's how many people or things were sampled. Min is the minimum value. Q1 is the first quartile. 25% of the data falls below this value. The median, MED, is short for median, which is the middlemost value when listed least to greatest. 50% are bigger and 50% are smaller. It's the middlemost value. Q3 is the third quartile. Think of this. 20 quartile, 25%, 50%, 75%, just like money. Maximum is the maximum value of the set. It's the largest value. And then we have this thing called IQR, interquartile range. And it's the middle 50%. It's 75% minus 25%, so it's the middle 50%. It's Q3 minus Q1. All right? So here we go. We're going to need to input some data into our calculator. This is really easy to do. Make sure your calculator's on. And you're going to find the Stat button. And Edit's already highlighted, so press Enter. And then you're going to enter all those values into L1. Now, if you already have stuff in L1, you need to get it out of there. So press Clear, and then press Enter. So I went up to the top. Here, I'm going to do that again. So I have stuff in there. I needed to get rid of it. I arrow all the way to the top. I press clear, then I press enter, and it's gone. All right, so I need to type in all those values to speed this things up. I'm going to do something to speed it up. And say, there we go. So I have all my values in. Once I have them in, I'm going to press stat again. I'm going to arrow one space over to calc where it says 1var stats, and I'm going to press enter. I have L5 highlighted, but my data was in column L1. So I'm going to press the blue button followed by the number 1, and now it says L1. We don't need to turn our freak on today, and so we end up getting X bar. That's our mean, and we ended up getting 3.5. All right? The next thing is we have our standard deviation of our population is 5.12, and we see that our sample size is 10. The next thing it asks for is our minimum. Well, we can see that our minimum value was -10. That was the lowest value. Q1 is quartile 1, which is 2. Our median, I punched the down arrow, and our median is 4.5. That's the middle value. One more time. Third quartile is 75%, and that was number 7. Our largest value in the data set was 9. All right, IQR is not calculated, but they give us, remember, IQR is Q3 minus Q1. So Q3 was 7, Q1 is 2, 7 minus 2 is 5. Moving right along. I'm going to go ahead and clear that out. And we have scenario 2 where we have this list of data. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it over to L1, blue 3. And there it is. So I'm going to press stat calc. It's all in L1. And my average is 17.25. We see that my standard deviation of the population is 4.16. And my sample size is 12. We also see my minimum value is 10. My first quartile is at 15. and 50% of the values are greater than 16.5 and 50% are less than 16.5 because this is my median. If I scroll down to Q3, I find that 75% of the values are less than 19. I find that the largest value in the data set was 25. And the next thing asks for IQR. Well, the screen doesn't give you that, but remember IQR is just Q3 minus Q1. So IQR is just Q3 minus Q1. So 19 minus the 15, and that gives me an IQR of 4. 19 minus 15 is 4. All right. So continuing on. Our next data set. So we have this list. I need to put it in. Please remember, and I went through it too fast last time, so I'll slow down this one. Press the stat button. Edit should highlight. Press enter. If I have stuff in there, which I do, I'm going to press clear. And then I'm going to type in all those values. So let me put some more stuff in there just real quickly that I don't want in there. All right, I don't want those values in there, so I'm going to arrow up to the top. I'm going to press clear and then press enter, and I got rid of them. Now, I already have these values typed. So there, I just typed them all in. And I'm going to go stat, arrow 1 space over to calc, 1 variable statistics, blue 1 for L1. And find out that my sample mean is 75. My standard deviation of the population is 15.652. And I find out that my sample size is N. The next thing it asks for is the minimum value. Well, I see the minimum value is 45, and I see Q1 is 60. I down arrow once, and 50% of the data is less than 80, and 50% of the data is larger than 80. So that's my median. Remember MED, and I'm just going to remind you, write it down so that you don't forget, this is the median. The next value it asks for is Q3. I down arrow and I get 87.5. So 75% of the data is less than 87.5, but 25% is larger. Arrow down one more time and I find my maximum value. The largest value of the data set is 100. The next thing it asks for is IQR. IQR is not on the calculator. You have to know that Q3 minus Q1 equals IQR. So 87.5 minus 60 equals 27.5. My IQR is 27.5. And remember, IQR stands for interquartile range. All right, last set of data. All right. So last set of data, once again, I'm going to press stat and I have edit highlighted and I press enter. If I have stuff in L1, I need to clear it out. So I up arrow. So I just use a little up arrow right there. Up arrow, press clear and press enter. All right, once I have it, I type that data in. So I've now typed it all in. And by the way, all of this data goes into L1. All of it goes into L1. I know it looks like 2 rows, but all of it goes into L1. So now we're going to go stat calc, 1 variable statistics. And we find out that the mean is 91.85. The standard deviation of the population is 12.07. Normally we go to 4 decimal places, but not today. Our sample size is 20 because we input 20 data points. The next thing it gives us is the minimum, and our minimum value was 75. 25% of the data is less than Q1, so 25% of the data is less than 82.5. If I down arrow, I find out the median, which is 90. So please don't forget that MED stands for median. So let's write that down. Down arrow again, and I find out that Q3 is 100. down arrow another time, and I find that my maximum value or the largest value in the data set is 120. The next thing asks for the IQR, which is not given to us by the calculator, but it's simply Q3 minus Q1. So 100 minus 82.5. So we end up with an interquartile range or IQR of 17.5. All right, I hope this helps. I certainly look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.